Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about SD cards, specifically the best SD card for your Olympus camera, and then just deciphering some of the information that there is on there and all the little specs and things you need to know when you're out shopping for the very best card for your camera. So hang on and let's get into it. Okay, so before we begin, I want to mention two things. There are two different types of SD cards on the market right now. The newer card is backward compatible in the old slot, so know that ahead of time. The two types of cards are called UHS-1, Roman numeral 1, and UHS-2. And so here they are. Now the UHS-2 cards have 2 rows of pins, and the UHS-1 cards have 1 row of pins. If you have an EM10 Mark II, Mark III, a Pen F, an EM5 Mark II, anything older than that, or a Pen series, then your camera has a UHS-1 slot. So it cannot realize the extra pins that are on a UHS-2 card. You could put a UHS-2 card in it, but it won't be any faster. Okay? So let's say that up front. The other really big reason, of course, to have a UHS-2 card is that it will download to your computer much faster than the older card. So this is a Hoodman Steel UHS-2 USB 3 card reader. And what this guy will do, if you haven't updated your card reader in a while, is it will give you probably a 3 to 5 times bump in terms of speed getting the images off of your card down to your computer. If I am going to an SSD drive on my computer or my laptop, and I'm using one of the newer cards, I'm getting probably 260 megabytes download speed per second. If I'm using one of the older cards, I'm getting around 90 to 95 megabytes per second. So you can see that's about 3 times faster. And so if that is a concern for you, you shoot a ton of pictures and you hate waiting to get them onto your computer, then buying a faster reader and a faster card will give you a huge performance bump. Okay, so let's talk about these two different types of cards. Let's start with the SanDisk card and talk about what's on there, because these are the normal things that you'll see when you're out shopping and how to know exactly what type of card it is. And I really want to mention up front that there's a lot of fake cards on the market, especially with the really big brands. So like SanDisk, for one, is one that gets copied all the time. So if you were going to buy a SanDisk SD card and you're going to buy it from a Best Buy or your local camera shop, or you're going to buy it from B&H Photo or Adorama, you're probably fine. If you're buying it online or like on Amazon, then you really need to be careful. There are instructions on there on how to figure out if you have a fake card, but I would say it's probably worth the extra time and effort to go ahead and buy it from a reputable dealer. Okay. So this is the SanDisk Extreme Pro. It's an old card, but I just kind of show you guys what's on this thing. Okay, so here's our big SD card so we can see what we're doing. Okay, so it says SanDisk at the top, whatever. It says one thing that's really important right here. It says 95 MB a second. If you only see one speed listed on a card, I'm 99.9% sure that is the maximum download speed from card to computer that you can get. It is not the read or the write speed of the card. That's not how fast the camera can give pictures to the card. It's how fast the card can give pictures to the computer. So just know that that's not the most important number that's on here. Okay, so it's going to say SDXC, and then there's a Roman numeral 1. That means it's a UHS-1 card. The SDXC just refers to the capacity of the card standard and all that. But that Roman numeral 1 means there's only 1 row of pins on the back of the card. Now, the important thing on these cards is 2 things. Number 1, it has a U and a 3 in the middle, and it has a 10 with a circle around it. The 10 with a circle around it is a really old standard. That means that the card has at least the capability of writing to it. You can write to it at least 10 megabytes per second, okay? The U3 is actually the newer standard. That means you can write to the card at least 30 megabytes per second. So if you are buying one of these cards, make sure you're getting a U3. That's 30 megabytes second write. Now, if we do the math on 237 megabits per second 4K video on an EM1 Mark II. That comes just under 30 megabytes per second, which means this card is capable of writing 4K video from the EM1 Mark II or the EM1X at the highest possible codec. Okay, so it's a pretty fast card. It's not as fast as the UHS-2 cards, but it does a great job. These are good cards, and if you buy a U3 card, you're going to get at least 30 megabytes per second write speed. The other big number on the card is the actual capacity of the card. So this is a 64 gigabyte. And of course, that's important when you're out buying them. On the side of the card, I'm just going to mention there's a little switch. And that little switch is like a lock protector. I have never in my life used that on an SD card before. But if you flip that switch, then you cannot write to the card. And if you ever find yourself wondering why your card's not working, that's one reason. That's one thing to check. Some people report accidentally flipping that switch. I don't, because I keep all my cards in this Think Tank Pixel Pocket Rocket, and I've never had them accidentally switched on me. But definitely, I'm aware of it. If that's ever like you're out in the field, just like panicked because you can't figure out why your card's not working. Okay, so this is the older style card. The new, was it Pro grade cards? There's SanDisk cards. There's hundreds of different brands of them. You can get these up to 128 gigabytes for around the $50 range. So if you have, like I said, anything other than an EM1 Mark II or an EM1X, then this is probably the best card. The only reason I could think of to go to a faster card would be if you really wanted that improvement in download time. And if you do that, make sure you buy not only the faster card, but the faster reader so that you get that performance boost. Okay, so there we go with that one. Now let's talk about the newer cards, because there's a couple other standards that are really important. So let me make sure I'm centered on here. Here's my SD card. Let's do the Sony card, because Sony actually provides a bit more information on theirs. So on here, you're going to see SDXC again, and you're going to see Roman numeral 2. So that means there's 2 rows of pins on the back of the card. It's the newer card. It's also, of course, going to meet the Class 10 standard. It's also going to meet the U3 standard. This is a Series M card, so they write that on there. And then, crucially, it says 2 things which I think are really nice that you don't see on every card. It says write and read. So the read speed is 260 megabytes a second, and the write is 100 megabytes per second. And if you're out buying these cards, you can always find these specs, like on B&H's site, it'll actually list what they are. So even if you have something that's a card where it doesn't so explicitly say on the card what it is, at least you can go figure it out. This is actually the standard that's referred to as V60. Okay? And if you look at this Hoodman card, instead of having all of this on there, it just says V60. The other standard is V90. They're identical, except that the minimum write speed on a V60 card is 60 megabytes per second sustained, and on a V90 card, the minimum write speed is 90 megabytes per second. Okay? All right, so you have all of those things, and then of course it has the 64 gigabytes and whatnot. Now, if we look at the Hoodman card, you can also see it says 8K and it says 1500X. I hate this 1500X business because it's like undecipherable. I don't even know if it's the same X speeds across all different types of cards. So I really prefer the megabytes per second, but if I look at what the V60 standard is, that's 100 and 260, and so it's the same as the Sony card. Now, what is the main difference? Why would you choose the Sony card or the Hoodman card or another card? Well, for me, the biggest criteria at this point, looking at different types of cards that are the same speed, is how tough is the card? How durable is it? And one of the reasons I love the Hoodman cards is that they are the only V60 UHS-2 cards on the market that I've found that make claims to being a tough card. And what that means is that they have filled that thing with like a resin on the inside to keep it rigid. They have the steel plate on the outside. I don't know how much that does. But then crucially, they're willing to stand behind their product with a lifetime warranty. And this is not like a gigantic company that is difficult to get a hold of. This is a USA company with a phone number and an email address that you can get a hold of if you have a problem. So To me, it's not so much that you're probably going to need the warranty, but the fact that they put the warranty on there as a lifetime warranty, that just means they're willing to stand behind their product and they believe they have really made something that is a durable tool. So I really like those Hoodman steel cards. It's been a new thing for me. Adding extra cards now that I got my EM1Xs. So for me, that's a perfect card. The other one that's out there, if you're in the V90 series, Hoodman also makes a V90, but there's another one that you should consider on the market, and that's the Sony Tough series. Sony Tough cards are a unibody design. I don't know if they're filled with resin or anything like that. It doesn't say anywhere on there, but they are making claims to being a stiffer, a tougher design. And the other thing that Sony has done is they have taken the ridges off the back of the card. If you feel along here, along these gold contacts, you can see that there's little pieces of plastic ridging that kind of help the card, I think, slide in straight. And they've actually taken those out on the Sony Tough cards. And it's just to decrease the possibility of anything breaking on the card. The only downside to the Sony Tough cards that I've heard online so far, and this is only anecdotal, is that they are slightly thicker than the standard cards. So some card slots have, in some cameras, there's been some reports that it's hard to get them in and out. So for me, if I'm looking at the two different standards, V60 and V90, among the fastest cards available, if you are like me and you shoot events, weddings, people, and by consequence of that, typically don't shoot more than 10 or 12 or 15 frames in a single burst, then the V60 cards are super instantaneous in their ability to write to the out of the camera. Like, I'm never waiting for the EM1X to finish writing for anything that I do on a wedding day. So for me, if the only way to get a tough card was to buy the V90 cards, then I would do that. But the fact that I found a V60 card that has the same performance in terms of toughness, I find that series of cards is more than enough for what I need. If you are a person who uses a lot of pro capture, like you shoot lots of birds or wildlife and you're buffering a lot of frames at a time like that, then the faster cards are going to save you a substantial amount of time in waiting for the camera to clear all the pictures out so you can get to the next shot. If you are someone who uses a lot of high-speed burst, or you just shoot a ton of sports in general, for example, then a V90 card is going to make a ton of sense for you. So if you're going to shoot V90 cards, then I would definitely look at that Sony Tough series, look at the Hoodman series, and whatnot. If you're going to own a camera like the EM10 Mark III, you're owning a pen series or anything under EM1 Mark II, then you're probably well served by the regular UHS-1 cards, in which case, Hoodman makes those, SanDisk makes those, ProGrade makes those. Just make sure that you buy from a reputable dealer. If you're looking for one that makes any kind of claims to being a tough card, I would definitely look at that Hoodman series. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just really like their stuff. And let's see, is there anything else about SD cards? If you guys have questions, I'd love to have those in the comments. We can talk about it. Oh, if you have an EM1 Mark II, I want to mention this, and just in case you don't know, that camera has two card slots, but one of them is UHS-2 and one of them is the older UHS-1. So if you are writing pictures to both slots, you are limited by the speed of the slower slot. So again, I don't think there's a great reason in an EM1 Mark II to have a V90 card unless if you're shooting to both cards and if you're shooting to both slots, like I did for weddings and you're using it for backup, then a V60 card is probably plenty fast in terms of keeping up with anything that the UHS-1 card slot can do. Even if you're writing RAW files to one slot and smaller JPEG files to the other to kind of even out the speeds. If you're shooting an EM1 Mark II and you're using just one card slot for like birding photography for whatnot, then a V90 card might make sense for you. All right, guys, I guess that's it for today. Thanks for watching. If you guys have questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll try and put some links to some of the stuff that I have researched and bought in my own personal work below. And if that's helpful, then go ahead and use those links. And then I am working on my setup video for the EM1Xs. I have a pair of them, and I've been shooting them for the last few weeks. Just kind of giving myself time to really move in and get to know the nuances and hopefully give you guys some really practical advice on the way that I've set it up. So that'll be coming later this week. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned. Please hit the notification bell and subscribe if you want to. and I'll see you on the next one.